Hi everybody, it's MaryAnn Camacho here with a review of how many employees does it take to change a light bulb. As leaders, we know that change is constant and necessary if we intend to have a competitive edge. And we also know that we have to both initiate it and we have to finish it. But we know that change is daunting, it's messy, and it's full of risk. You may be asking, well, MaryAnn, is there a magic wand that we can use to make this change easier? Maybe it's in my book. Well, probably not. However, I found a common element among successful leaders that I'd like to share with you. In fact, I'm on a mission to help leaders respect the intellect of their front line by engaging them in innovating and running the company. I know these skills can be taught and a team culture can be shaped. And I believe I figured out a repeatable way to do it. Yes, you can make constant change successfully and with your team. I have over 30 years of professional experience working from frontline roles to boardroom reviews. In my early days, I fixed magnetic resonance equipment in the field, carrying a tool bag. And in my executive years, I fixed multi-billion-dollar business operations. To this day, I continually strive to be an avid learner of contemporary change for business operations. Yes, I'm a self-professed process junkie who loves continuous improvement work, and you'll find it scattered throughout the book. But when I realized a few years ago that my natural tendency was to go to the front line, to find and execute transformation, I knew this is what I was meant to do in life. It's my pleasure to share a proven business operation leadership technique that'll help you light up the intellect of your employees and the needs of your customers. So, there are many great examples out there of companies who have demonstrated excellence in this realm. Their similarity seems to be those fantastic cultures that they fostered to have both an amazing employee and customer experience. Some of my personal favorites are Zappos. Just love the cat with the cape that takes my shoes to the cart. Whoever thought of that, thank you. You make shopping fun. Costco. Absolutely love how their employees are engaged and they're never out of stock because they're selective on what they offer. Quest Diagnostics, some of the most innovative patient servicing center techniques that I have seen, including their direct-to-consumer offerings. Super smart. Wegmans, one of the most beautiful grocery chains, if we can say that, in the Northeast. I can say that because they have great food and their employees are always smiling. And then there's Cisco. Yes, the huge IT giant who is probably the epitome of customer focus with a great employee experience. And, doubt I mention, innovative at every stop. So, unfortunately, we also know the other side. Many companies that churn and burn employees and they leave their customers underwhelmed. I'm going to leave them unnamed. But when I compare the employee churners to the culture cultivators, another factor of the transformational success appears to be in those with innovation, prosperity, and downright fun at work. They have leaders who know and recognize that the human intellect is limitless and powerful. They know happy employees lead to happy customers, and that leads to a profitable business. But they do more than just hope in their employees. They learn how to harness those great employee experiences in the teams that they lead. And they do it whether they're working side by side in a manufacturing plant or an office or virtually via a computer screen. So, if you are unfortunately mired in layoffs and numerous other cost-cutting programs, let me take a moment to open your eyes to an alternative way of lasting prosperity. I'm sure you believe in your team. You wish they could make transformational business decisions and willingly execute them, but perhaps you faced a roll of red tape exhausting budget reviews, or reoccurring return on investment reviews, only to be in the same place that you've started. Like me, you probably yearn to make a positive change in your business, but you're feeling like a hamster in that proverbial wheel spinning endlessly to nowhere. I figured out a way to get out of that. I know there is potential in you and in your team, but there may also be too much gunk in your way. So what if I could show you a way to harness all the good stuff, to overpower all that difficult junk? So maybe you picked up the book just as an answer to the cover question. How many employees does it take to change a light bulb? Well, the answer depends on many factors. I mean, what about your company culture and your overall leadership style? Whether it's perceived or real, the bureaucracy of corporations today can stifle creativity and productivity in the chain of commanding policies and procedures. Even seemingly simple tasks like changing a light bulb can take forever to get approved. I mean, have you become prey to a well-intentioned brainstorming session on a Zoom meeting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon with no less than 50 people on it? I mean, come on. That is not exactly the time when we're at our peak performance with the creative juices spilling out, at least not me. And most of the time, we could have figured out a way to change that light bulb in half the time it took to get through introductions. But listen, because culture is so important in our ability to make change, it's important to realize that a culture of innovation and prosperity is cultivated, not scheduled. And if you don't like the culture of your company, change it. There are a lot of great books out there to help you do just that. I'm going to reference many of them throughout. Two of my personal favorites are The Good Job Strategy and the follow-on to it, The Case for Good Jobs, both written by MIT Sloan professor Zeynep Ton. Her proven formula of the Good Job Strategy is comprised of simplifying your product offerings, empowering your employees, cross-training them, and then operating with Slack. I know the GGS system works, and I'm living proof of it. I've witnessed the power of it in leading teams directly. However, I got so many questions from students and others on how do you even start the journey? So, over the past 3 decades, working with some of the best corporate leadership development firms and continuous improvement practitioners, I refined the lessons that I've learned in leading teams into a set of steps that you can easily follow to start transforming your business. And it's applicable to many industries, from manufacturing to retail, from government to healthcare and frontline to back office service teams alike. It's an easy to understand set of building blocks that I term the model team methodology. The premise is to focus on one manageable team at a time. This will be your model team. Maybe it's the only team that you're managing in the company today, or maybe it's one of several. What you do is you bring the best ideas forward, you cultivate a culture of innovation and prosperity in this model team, and then you use that to scale to others. And in short, it makes work that employees actually like to do. It makes it fun, and you can too. And let me assure you, this is not theory. This is real life, hands-on work that works. So I'll provide you a blueprint in the episodes that follow to achieve stable and scalable operations. And the first half is going to be on how to engage your team, to be innovative and to drive change. And then the second half is going to be on how to empower them to make effective change and make it stick. And there's templates and other goodness in the appendix of the book and on www.modelteamenterprises.com to guide you. You'll see a lot of light bulb moments that'll pepper in, and you can stop and ask yourself, am I doing this? Should I be? What if I did? And I hope that you will. Model team methodology is an iterative method of engaging your team. It's a process to make transformational change more manageable and more effective. I came up with the method later in life, but I realized it was when I was leading a circuit board facility years ago. I started it from a dirt floor warehouse and used continuous improvement techniques with a heavy dose of humanism. It got honed as I led commercial operations for a multi-billion-dollar healthcare equipment business processing service contracts and invoices. And then it got cemented for me when I unified more than 15 call center teams into one super high-performing group. MIT Sloan and the Harvard Business School have helped me learn a ton along the way, and they featured my work. I believe I can teach you how to engage and empower your team to make change for good. That is, I want to put you on set. So we're going to imagine a little bit here. So here goes. Let's dive in. So imagine you're this leader who needs to make a big transformational change for your company in order to survive. I mean, this isn't one of those nice to do kind of changes. This is a do or die kind of thing. In today's environment, I can't imagine that many of you are not thinking about this. Where do you start though? How do you get from imagining a great idea, imagining a transformed group into reality? Well, as a good leader, you innately know that you need to enlist the support of your team, right? I mean, it's going to take an army to make the kind of change that you need. Sure, you've listened to them and to your customers, and you know making this big change is the right thing to do. You also know that everyone's going to need to learn a new way to adapt. Where do you start? How do you get from paper to process? Well, you've seen this before. What works best is a bottoms-up deployment. So you decide to generate a groundswell. You know you're going to need to provide training and support to enable the team, but you believe in empowering them, and you want to engage their intellect and their leadership potential. But you know better than to pinpoint a specific region, department, or a manufacturing cell, and God forbid, someone's favorite group. You know the kind of transformation that you need to make is going to require a whole new kind of thinking. So you have an idea. You ask the leaders to come to you and request they be chosen, request they be invested in. I mean, that's what we've seen work on one of our favorite shows, Shark Tank, right? So why can't it work here? Okay, so you decide to do this, you get your group together, you set the rules of engagement, and then you get everybody into the conference room days later. You're all gathered there to hear the presentations from the leaders that are going to be vying for your investment to be this transformational pilot group. This is going to be your model team, if you will. Stage is set. In walks Marie, one of the supervisors. She's got on a pair of galoshes, a fishing hat, a vest, and a rod and a reel. And she starts off by saying, "We want to go fishing for some new ways of doing things around here." The room is going to burst into laughter, and you're going to smile and respond, "Tell us all about it. You have 4 minutes and 45 seconds left." After all of the pitches are done, one of them is going to be chosen to take the lead. This decision is going to be a big one, as they are going to be given an investment of dedicated training and support over the next 8 weeks to bring the transformative way of working to life for everyone to see. Now, you know that this is kind of a different way to go about making a change, but you've seen pilot groups and pilot product launches work before. So why not here? You've listened to your leadership team, and you know that there is some varying resistance to making a change. Some of it is based on fear, fear of the unknown. Some are hesitant just because they lack change management skill. You have a deep respect for the intellect of your leadership and that of the front line, and you want to provide them both the ability to learn and to share their ideas in making this transformation happen. So, I'm going to put you back on set. You're in the conference room. All of the pitches have finished. You're deliberating and deciding on your first model team to leap into this major transformation. When you see tears well up in one of your leaders' eyes, and she says, I didn't know Marie had that in her. She did such a great job in presenting her vision today. You're going to smile more and feel joy erupt in that group because they have chosen to change. This is half the battle, folks, and this hurdle has been crossed. Bingo. And I'm going to hit the question head on. How many employees does it take? If there are too many policies, procedures, approvals, handoffs, and other baloney in the way, this light bulb changing issue can become a nightmare. The true answer to my question is that we really only need one employee to change the light bulb. One able-bodied, enabled employee who sees the problem, finds a solution, and executes it simply because they can. If not, that light is going to be out for far too long. People are in the dark, and you spend far too much time and money trying to fix it. I want to share a pivotal experience that I will never forget. I was a leader of a pretty large team, and I was meeting with various supervisors and their managers to get to know them. And I knew something was wrong when I heard Maggie, who was one of the supervisors, describing the reason for one of her employees' less than stellar performance. She said to us, Jane has to work the overnight shift. You know, she's a single mom with 5 kids. I didn't understand what the supervisor Maggie was trying to say, but I could imagine why there might be some performance issues with her employee. I mean, taking care of 5 kids all day and then working through the night has got to be grueling. But I was flabbergasted by the supervisor's apparent callousness. I mean, my gut began to twist. And I wanted to know the real reason why Jane's performance was not up to par with Maggie. So I asked her, what does having 5 kids have to do with her job? I mean, it must be incredibly difficult to feed those children and ensure they have a safe place to live, especially on her salary. And what training has she had in the last year? What does she aspire to do? And it was at this point that our supervisor Maggie's eyes began to well up. She had never thought about Jane this way. She had never heard a leader care beyond the numbers. So having this kind of discussion about a frontline employee was a turning point for Maggie. And it was really a light bulb moment for me to see how when a supervisor starts to empathize with their employee's perspective, they take a really big step towards a more caring and trusting relationship. I tell you this story because the employee experience and the customer experience are directly correlated. We know from years of research and simple common sense, it's that the better employees feel when doing the job, the better their service to customers will be. We know also that a great customer experience leads to better profit and growth. And companies that focus on great customer experiences can naturally improve their employee experiences by engaging them in the design. So we know higher customer effort experiences lead to higher costs to serve, and nobody wants that. Case in point, not having enough staff to answer customer service calls leads to salespeople fielding those calls. And if the customer cannot reach a customer service rep, they call their salesperson. Not only is this a more expensive service interaction, but also the customer is not really likely to be in a buying mood when they're taking out their frustration on the person that's supposed to be doing sales. So how do you go about setting up the best environment for your employees? I had to face this question many times. Years ago, when I started leading a call center that was the subject of an MIT case study, our first year agent attrition was really high, very high. The day I arrived, there was a crowd of people in the lobby being hired in. We didn't need them because of growth. It was to replace those we had lost because others had walked out. The environment was not pleasant. Was it the pay? Was it the supervisors? Was it the benefits package, work, blah, blah, blah? Yeah, it was all of that. It was the employee experience, which is a full enterprise full of people, processes, and technology, and it was not working effectively until we began to listen and realize what our employees were being asked to do. I have found a repeatable way to create an inspiring culture, developmental opportunities, and clarity and meaning of work in teams. And it starts with one team, one model team at a time. What exactly is that? It's a small and scalable team that you focus on to enable long-term operational success. It's, say, 5 to 30 employees led by a dedicated manager, supervisor, which you can shape into the kind of team that you want others to become. It's a model of success for you and others. It truly is about creating a prototype, then another, then another. A few or even just one small team at a time. And by taking a stepwise approach, you can quickly scale change across your organization. So you focus on this one team, you get them to demonstrate the way you want all of them to work, but you don't wait for perfection. You progress until the team is good and stable enough for you to start another. The premise is to build one team that can then be a model for the next team to follow in terms of goals, learning, and engagement. And you start by selecting a model team, a group that has earned your trust and has requested the investment of time and resources to prove that there's a better way and that it can be done. You train them. I'll go into future chapters about how you do that. It's not onerous. It's not labor intensive. You're going to do it in bite-sized nuggets. You're going to instill daily operating huddles. This has discipline and it has thoughtful structure, and it is the way that you set the accountability. You visualize the metrics, the things that, the KPIs, the key performance indicators that you want the team to achieve. You innovate with employees constantly. Remember, the frontline has some of the best ideas needed to transform your company. You coach, change, leadership. You coach, change, leadership. You'll have to. This is all about change, and we can't assume that our teams know how to do this. It must be taught. And then, of course, you reward, you recognize, and you promote. Lucky you, lucky them. You're going to be creating a succession path. So while it involves several steps, 7 actually to be exact, it's not slow. In fact, you better get your giddy up suspenders on to make this big change happen. But once you decide it's time, don't look back. Go for it, because your team is counting on you. In fact, I would say that this is probably your life preserver for making any big change. I know it may have you excited already about selecting a model team, engaging your employees in innovation, but let me tell you this. You have to commit to continuous improvement by investing in Kaizen. The definition and the Japanese word Kaizen, when literally translated, means change for good. It comes from the practice of Six Sigma, lean, agile methodologies, and it has transformed my businesses and many others worldwide. One of the most important investments that you need to make as a leader who's getting ready to do a big transformational change. But what I also want to tell you is that it's not expensive. You don't need a whole lot of investment in order to make it happen. What you do need is a Kaizen promotion office. This is simply a small central group. It could be one person to start that you promote from within. They manage the projects, they train employees on the little must-have nuggets of methodology that can facilitate change through continuous improvement. This group, this person, is called your Kaizen promotion office. They are promoting change for good throughout your organization. And you can see a sample organizational structure that I've provided you there. And start out with at least one person and form your Kaizen promotion office. And hey, listen, if you don't have somebody from within your team that has the basic facilitation skills and or technical training skills that might be needed for this office, you can call on my friends over at the Shingijutsu group, the Shingijutsu Corporation, I should say, and they can certainly help you out. Thanks a lot. Don't forget, put your life vest on and get a KPO in place.
The reality is that when leaders invest in training our employees, we create a lifetime of reward. Not only does it make the team more competent and able to add value to the company, but just the prospect of professional development can light a fire of enthusiasm in our front line. Because training enables them to come forward with smarter questions and more innovative solutions. And let's not overlook the benefit of having a learning culture around us. You know, Deloitte actually points out that 92% of companies that do this are likely to develop more novel products and processes. They're 52% more productive, 56% more likely to be first to market, and 17% more profitable. Oh, and by the way, their engagement and retention rates are 30 to 50% higher than their peers. So, one of the keys to creating a successful model team is to provide training. And in fact, it's continuous improvement training, but don't panic. You don't need an entire education center to deploy it. You need to teach no more than the basic continuous improvement skills to get rolling. And I'm going to outline the 9 of them here for you today. Number 1, 8 types of waste identification. The 5 S's for organization and order. Process flow mapping to understand the steps of delivering a product or a service. Defining problems, understanding measurement systems. The 5 Whys tool, which is great for finding root cause. 7 ways to solve that root cause. Try-storming and sustaining results. And the best way to deliver this learning is through active, hands-on, exercise-driven, reiterative learning plans that happen in short bursts throughout the work week. Let's not forget, we are running a business. Once you have the basic training plan in progress, it's time to get our hands dirty. One of the best ways to empower yourself and others is to commission a Kaizen workout. Kaizen workouts utilize Six Sigma and lean tools to enable a team to find solutions to problems in a short period of time. It begins with defining the problem, envisioning a better future state, and chartering a small team to find a way to get there. Let me give you a real example. It was day 3 of a week-long Kaizen that I was working on with a team at a circuit board plant. We were knee-deep in making change. A colleague and I had wired up a new and-on alert system, and we're testing it out. Well, something shorted when we flipped the switch on. Sparks literally flew. A few expletives, I'm sure, burst from our lips, and then we made a check to make sure both of us were okay, and thankfully we were. But this commotion drew the attention of our coach, the sensei. He came over to see what was going on. We were sweating a bit, wondering what the damage might be. And as the sensei approached, he was smiling. In fact, he started laughing. And he said something extraordinary. "Very good. You're making real change. Keep going." My partner and I just looked at each other with an expression that said, "Holy moly, really? This was good?" Then it turned to a serious grin. And then we said, "Rock on. Let's blow more stuff up." We fixed that short circuit and we learned to be comfortable taking risks forever after. So what happens after events like this is eye-opening for everyone. The experiments may not work exactly as you thought, but you get more ideas. The team makes another run at it, and soon you have what you were after. You save hundreds of thousands of dollars by improving your operations. You gain strength in your ability to try, to learn, and make progress. I guess you could say these will be some of your burn the boats moments. You will have to risk a little bit to save more than 10 times that. It just takes a little bit of guts and determination. Investing in just a little bit of training your team and using Kaizen events will deliver a lifetime of reward. Instilling good habits in the form of operating mechanisms, such as daily stand-up meetings, weekly reviews, quarterly board reviews, can lead to great results. Let me share an example. It was New Year's Eve many years ago, and I was getting ready to move to another state and take on a new job. My husband and I had enjoyed a nice dinner out, and we were headed back home when I got a call. It was the manager of this new group I would be joining. He said, "I'm just calling to let you know that we've got everyone here and we'll be working through the night to get all of the service contracts booked before the year-end revenue cutoff." And I responded, "Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for you and your team's dedication to our customers and our business. Happy New Year to you all, and we'll see you in about a week when I get up there, okay?" Click. I turned to my husband and said, "Man, I'm not sure about this new gig I just signed up for. The team is working through New Year's Eve to process all the service contracts. That is not my idea of a good time." Now, don't get me wrong. I am not averse to work. I work my tail off. I bet you do too. But yeah. So what? Everybody works hard, right? I get it. My beef is this. I despise waste and working in unnecessary crisis modes. I hate seeing people being pushed to the hilt when in fact, with just a little preparation, waiting until the last minute to create a rush to the finish crisis mentality really could have been averted. And you want to know how? Let me share the rest of the story. I took that job. 2 months in, after observing all of the work and listening to the employees, I set a vision for the team to smooth out the peaks and the valleys of incoming and outgoing work, creating stable operations. I shared my visions and my expectations in an all-employee town hall. Now, the idea of creating a better working environment with either none or much fewer midnight shifts garnered a lot of interest. Folks really wanted to be involved. I requested those who specifically wanted to be part of the change to step up, and many did. We ended up choosing one small team to go forward to be our pilot group or our model team, if you will. And then we did what I've talked about in previous episodes. We selected that team. We trained them in continuous improvement. We visualized the metrics and set a dashboard up. We instilled daily operations, stand-ups every day at the same hour. We engage them in innovation. We listen to what their ideas are, what the ideas of the field sales team were. We got feedback and we use that constantly to create better processes. Every idea that was put forth was either summoned to be in process or dismissed, depending upon the value that it created and the impact and effort that it would have. We coached change leadership, and we recognized, we reward, and we even promoted folks from within that team. And then we did that over and over again with other groups across the enterprise. That discipline of choosing that one small team, defining those metrics and engaging them, created the largest transformation that business had ever seen. It was incredibly successful. And within the year, no one had to stay in the office until midnight again. We found a way through good habits of model teaming to stomp out constant crisis mode. You can too. I can help you. Go ahead and subscribe, like this video, or even leave me feedback, or better yet, give me a call. I'd love to help you. Today, we're going to talk about those metrics that you need in order to keep your eye on the prize, right? I mean, you have to visualize what great looks like, and you got to put it on a dashboard. As leaders, we know that we need to set goals. We need to distribute them. We need to achieve them, surpass them. If you're a type A, you're going to crush them. We rely on goals to tell us where we're going and how we're performing as we get there. But what are they based on? Are your goals the obligatory sales growth, positive margin accretion, and/or positive cash flow? Well, at a macro level, yeah, those are a few really good signals of a healthy business, but they're also end game goals. In order to run a business, we need to understand the means to those ends. And even if you're not the one that's setting those companies' high-level goals, I have yet to meet a CEO who wasn't ecstatic about seeing their staff flow goals down and make them their own by embedding them in the operation. Whether I was setting or adapting strategic goals and executable priorities, I really like using Hoshin Conry methods. If you need help in setting your high-level strategic vision and/or goals and flowing them down, that is a great tool to use to help you get there. Because when it's used properly, it really eliminates the waste that comes from inconsistent direction and poor communication throughout the company. Regardless of which tool you use, you got to start with establishing a vision. You got to identify the 3 to 5 key strategic multi-year objectives that you want to achieve. And then they're meticulously broken down into subtasks, which then become your annual goals. And those goals, they have to be descriptive, specific, actionable, and timely. So in those discipline reviews, you know what you're looking for. DSAT, D-S-A-T, descriptive, specific, actionable, and timely. That's a really good one to remember. I find that it's beneficial to identify those key moments of value creation and waste in your business processes. And sometimes value stream mapping can be used. Even simple process mapping can help. While it might be straightforward to count the widgets or the transactions that are bought and sold, identifying the trip hazards in your process or value stream map are far better subtasks to track, because these can easily derail a business. When you identify metrics around them, it gives us the opportunity to act before it's too late. Whether you're in engineering, manufacturing, or a transactional processing business, waste is waste. Holding excess inventory, overproducing, overprocessing, unnecessary movement or transportation, waiting, rework, and defective products and services, those are all cash burners. It sounds easy, but identifying waste is actually the harder thing for folks to do. Take over processing. Your team may tell you, it's easier for my brain to focus on one process as opposed to the whole stream of work for each customer. Therefore, they do it all themselves. And you know what? It may seem like a really good point. It can be easier to focus on one task at a time. However, having one person manage the entire flow is risky. What if they're absent? What if they work a little slower or faster than others? What if they make a mistake? What if there are changes that are made after those products are produced? The risk to the business and customers when you do that over processing or non-single piece flow is very high. This is the point where hands-on visualization can really help you define your metrics and identify the waste. To help your team identify waste, I have a super quick 10-minute or less perfect in-person micro training session you can follow. So here's how it goes. You gather a few employees around a conference table, provide each of them with a blank piece of paper and a pencil. They might all know each other, but ask them to introduce themselves as an icebreaker. Part one of the training will go like this. You instruct them to write the first and last name of each person at the table onto that piece of paper in list form. They start with themselves, then they look at the person that they left, write their name down, and so on. And when they're done, they simply lay their piece of paper and pencil down. You set a timer and you say go. When the last pencil is down, stop the timer and note the duration out loud. Then begin the quality check. Ask each member to pass their page to their colleague on the left. Instruct them to check their own name on their neighbor's work for accuracy, finding out if their colleague had spelled their name right. It's a bit of a comedic exercise for sure, because big surprise, there will probably be errors or at least ineligible handwriting. It'll probably take 30 to 90 seconds to complete this, and you can all have a good laugh. Here's part two. Give everyone another fresh piece of paper. This time, ask them to write only their first and last name on the top of the page. Then they pass the page to their neighbor. You set a timer and you say go. The next person writes their name, then passes the sheet, and so on until all sheets are done and the pencils are down. You stop the timer and you note the duration out loud. And then, of course, you do the quality control check, asking each of them to pass the page to their colleague. Amazingly, you will probably find that in part two, which is the single piece flow method, will finish quicker, upwards of 30% faster than the batch process you did in section one. There are probably no errors. You may still have some ineligible handwriting, but guess what? Everyone knows how to spell their own name right. And the learning here is that even when somebody thinks they know it all, maybe they knew everybody around the table and they can do it faster than others, doing one part of the process well and then engaging your teammate to do the same for their part is going to yield better results. Understanding how your operation moves from one stage to another in developing products and services to your customers is the key to visualizing and choosing the right metrics with which you run your business. A great practice: follow the sales and service ticket from start to finish. It's as explicit as it sounds. You find the place in your business where the inception with a client starts, and then you track each step until that good or service is delivered. When you do this, get everyone to stand up for the entire process. It's gonna move quicker for one. Not everyone is going to agree at first. Getting all the process steps posted on a wall helps people feel validated. And this is really a fundamental must-have in high-performing team dynamics. The trick is really not to allow anyone who is more vocal than the others to dominate the conversation, nor just let them talk. They have to write it down. And everyone plays here, even the quiet ones who could not articulate the steps. would help put them in order. I've seen process flow diagrams span over 100 feet with paper and handwritten notes all over them, because the next part of the exercise will be to identify where the most failures occur in the process. Some folks will want to continue mapping the future state process until they get it just right. Nope. You'll have to move forward with a good enough. You're going to have a better process than you did before. And you're probably making this transformation in the middle of having to do real work. You can't just stop the business. Moreover, delays are usually simply an anti-change. Don't let it happen. It's going to feel like overkill. This is hard. Nobody wants to slow down by documenting everything. You need to remain steadfast. They may have thought they knew it before, but I guarantee there's going to be much to learn. Be sure to measure the time, the quantity, and the defects of every unit or transaction through each step. That's going to help you with your metrics. You're going to simply measure them over time, but you're never going to lose focus on managing the total process and tying it back to your main goal. You and your team, by doing this, are going to feel so much more in control, and that feels great. Hopefully over time, your dashboard will be reduced to just a few metrics, automated and made available on demand. It's a good lesson though to accept that good enough is okay when it's being accompanied by iteration. So don't work towards perfection. Let me go back to understanding our main goals. Less is more. There's a simple process I return to when I'm thinking about what I need to measure, and that is the KISS, which is keep it simple, stupid. The 4 disciplines of execution and many other books emphatically tell us to determine our big rocks first. You gotta keep it to the vital few. Seriously, just 1 to 3 goals maximum. From there, you can flow down to key performance indicators of both leading and lagging types discovered from your process mapping. This data is going to drive your decisions and your actions, and stay focused on it. What gets measured gets done. If you're still unsure about your metrics or whether your team understands them, engage those end users in developing and revising the dashboard. It can make a big difference, and because it's part of the learning and the ownership process. It may take a few weeks or months or even a year to flesh out the right set of key performance indicators for your dashboard. This is another reason why I like the model team method, because you can start small and focused, and you can iterate as you scale. As I talked about in the Good Habits episode, where and when you update the data, as well as where and when you review it, are important. You want to have a known date and time with repeatability when that data is updated and when it's published. To ensure that you have the necessary reviewers. For instance, your supervisors, your managers, your Kaizen promotion office, they should all have access to the data. And you got to give them a little bit of time to digest it. You don't want to be publishing data at 5 p.m. for an 8 a.m. review the next day. That's just not fair. Folks need time to digest and analyze. In fact, that's where they should be spending most of their time, is in analyzing the data and coming up with actions when it's not on track. With the help of business intelligence tools, you can integrate simple elements like trending, variation, to make it even easier for them. Whether you're in person or remote, the project's gotta move forward. And the places where we can see all the projects at a glance, these aren't monuments. These need to be live work areas. This helps you with transparency. It provides authenticity to your teamwork. It is so much easier to prepare for reviews when you use visible place. I'm going to take a whiteboard over a PowerPoint presentation every day of the week. How do we know when our dashboards are working? When we see the end goals tracking in unison with the key performance indicators, with more than 12,000 interviews at companies in over 80 countries. If you look at the data, it's obvious that core management practices can't be taken for granted. Enormous differences in how well managers execute, even basic tasks like setting targets and tracking performance. And these differences matter. Better managed firms are at a long-term advantage. They're more productive, more profitable, and they grow at a faster pace. I guess dashboards do work, along with discipline operating mechanisms. If you're detail averse, I get you. I prefer working on the more strategic side. However, I know that if you want to deliver great results, inspect what you expect. This means setting a strategy, and that dashboard is going to be right there with your windshield and your ignition. So drive on. There is an endless supply of ideas on your front line next to your customer where the real work is happening every single day. And I want to show you how you can tap into it in a cyclical manner. A few months ago, I was in a hallway outside of a CAT scan room. I was waiting for my father, who was getting prepped for a heart valve replacement. And there I was, waiting. Nothing more to do than just kind of worry if he was going to be all right, if he was going to make it. And so I'm innocently sitting there watching people come and go. And these two staff members come in from a side door and they greet each other. And one says to the other, "What you been up to?" And the second one responded and said, "Oh, I'm over here doing this job for 4 hours a day. I really don't know why, though. I'm really bored. I told the boss it was a waste of money to have me over there, and it would be better if they consolidated with the other location around the corner. I keep doing what they tell me, but I'm the type of person who likes to work, There I am, still sitting there, and I'm listening while trying to look like I wasn't. Couldn't help but be interested. This is casual employee conversation ripe with opportunity. Maybe there is a deeper reason for the lack of clientele at this person's work location. Maybe it was a slow day. However, what if it's a real business problem? What if this employee had a solution? And I wondered if anyone would care to ask. Studies show that highly engaged teams show 21% greater profitability. No kidding. It seems obvious, doesn't it? What does engaging them mean? And how do you go about it in real everyday work? Well, one of the keys is to respect their intellect. And the way that you do that is by start asking questions and engaging them in real problems that the business is encountering. Engaging them not only in the problems, but the solutions to your biggest business challenges. There's a professor at Harvard, Felix Oberholzer-Gee, one of my favorites, and he referred to the act of engaging employees in frontline idea generation as a shifting of ownership. Bottoms up leadership style pulls up instead of pushing down responsibility for making the business better. He notes that we must fundamentally understand the relationship between an employee's level of willingness to work for you and your customer's willingness to buy your product. When done right, providing both the responsibility and the recognition of any obstacles that might be in the way of achieving the desired results can and does create more favorable work conditions. Listening to those working on the front line comes from a deep form of respect I learned very early in my career. You see, I started out as an MRI field service engineer working in the Los Angeles area of the United States. And so we had to be problem solvers every single day. And in fact, many times it was during the middle of the night when there was nobody else to call. And I will tell you that the problem identification as well as the solutions and finding those was actually very satisfying on a daily basis. And so, it is this form of problem identification engagement that I believe gets at the heart of employee engagement and then can turn into great customer experiences. Even our most major business challenges those ideas to make that better do exist with those people that are on the front line and closest to the work. Here's a case in point. Some years ago, I was holding an employee roundtable with a group of customer service agents at a very large firm. And we had discussed the business results, a new time off policy. And I always like to save time at the end of these town halls for questions. Sometimes there would be silence and people looking down at their shoes, wondering when they could go on break. If I left enough of a pause in the air and cajoled them just a bit with open-ended questions, somebody would inevitably speak up. This time, one smart agent did. He said, "Why can't we just fax our customers the communication? You know, they really don't want our phone calls, especially in the middle of the night. They get annoyed." The direct manager of this group was sitting right beside me at the table here and responded a little bit bureaucratically, stating, "Well, it's a regulatory requirement to make that phone call." And I just paused. Because you know what? I hate bureaucracy. Actually, to be honest, if you could tell, I loathe it. I've learned to have fun with it, and you can too. I responded to that statement with, "Oh, really? Show me where I can read up on this regulation, because I want to ensure that I am fully versed and absolutely compliant." What happened next was predictable. There was no regulation stating that we specifically needed to make a phone call. There were only opinions, beliefs, and stances on the mode of communication required. Those agents and I now had something very powerful. We had customer sentiment, real, direct customer voices telling us they didn't want the call. We ran with this one. We did exhaustive research, stakeholder evaluations, compliance reviews, and business process changes. And we followed through on this agent's idea. It ended up saving the company millions of dollars and made customers and employees much happier. I have a simple three-way system that I talk about in this chapter on how you can engage your employees in innovation in a closed loop cycle. Step 1, request and acknowledge their ideas. Step 2, review and prioritize each and every one. Step 3, act and track them without fail. Let me tell you the super important things you got to do with each one. When you request ideas, make sure you do so with a set of very simple macro business impact areas that you know you want to engage your team on. Could be customers, employees, safety, whatever those big macro areas are, define those, put them on a card. Ensure that when employees submit their ideas, they submit that idea along with a proposed solution. Something magical happens when they have to give you both an idea and a solution. It moves from a complaint to an actual innovation idea. Make sure you acknowledge 100%. Nothing is going to kill this transformation change that you're building other than to have one of your employees feel like they're talking to a brick wall or that their ideas don't matter. You've got to acknowledge every single one of them with a simple note that says, "Thank you for your idea and your solution. We got it." Number 2, review and prioritize every single one. You may get hundreds, thousands of ideas that come in, and not all of them are going to make it through. You've got to prioritize which ones that you're going to work on. You can use a simple impact versus effort matrix. It may take you a while to train your team on what the impact of an idea is or how much effort it's going to take to put it into place. Once you have that running, you will quickly be able to tell whether or not it's got the business impact that you are looking for and or has a good assessment of the effort. Those ideas that have really big impact and really big effort, those are going to be your big whales that you're going to go after and make transformational change with. Some of the ideas that have good impact but require very low effort, that's the just do it. And maybe the other 2 boxes, they just don't get done and you disposition them as such. But always make sure that you tell the employees where the idea stands and whether or not it made it through the process
and why. You have to be clear on what you are going to do and what you're not going to do. And number 3 is to act on them and track them without fail. Make sure you are clear with how many are coming into the funnel, how many are in process, how many have been put to the side because frankly, they just don't provide enough business benefit to move forward, or you don't have the resources at this point in time. You're going to parking lot them. That's okay, but just make sure that you act on those that you say you're going to act on, track them without fail. Your Kaizen promotion office, your managers, your supervisors, and your employees, those are the folks that you want doing the work. Feel free to jump in yourself too when it warrants, but teach them and let them be part of the solution. That is going to deliver a fantastic learning. That's it. 1, 2, and 3. Ask them, review them, prioritize them, act and track without fail. For those of us with frontline service teams, we know that the service issues are not getting any easier. All the easy stuff, it's being handled by AI, thankfully. And automation, that's what we want. But now it means that our teams are even more of technical troubleshooters, like I was at one time in the middle of the night in support of your customers. They've got lots to share with you about what is happening. All you need to do is listen. Listen and engage, and you will discover a gold mine of engagement and positive change.